Is it bad that I like the smell?
The things that smell the nicest are usually the worst, in my experience.
Hey everybody, Adam Savage, and I am at our friends FBFX in London alongside shop manager Joe. How are you, my friend?
Good today.
Dude, so you guys have done, I mean, tens of thousands of suits of armor out of this shop over the past couple of decades?
Feels like that, definitely.
And one of my favorite things that you do is use the spray urethane. And I love this technique, but you're gonna show me today how you guys take a sprayed urethane piece of armor and make it battle damaged.
Yes.
Amazing.
So last time you were with us, you saw one of the cuirasses that we did the big cannon shot in.
One of my favorite pieces
Yes.
of COVID art I've ever seen.
As I say, you've got to keep model makers busy when it's quiet.
Exactly.
But quite often you'll have a situation where, especially when something needs to be very quickly done or turned around, if we were doing something which was battle damaged and it was a part of the piece, we would probably have it actually in the mold, as it were.
Which means you'd sculpt it in, there'd be a whole set of drawings and everything.
Each time. But sometimes you may have a situation where you just need, it could even be a dead body dressed, or you need to have the characters so they have a bit of damage on them, and it has a bit of a one-shot element. So in that case, it's better for us to just customize something which exists, rather than just doing a full workup, which may even involve digital work.
So what you're going to give me is a sort of lesson what you would give to somebody on your shop floor that needs to be dressing this stuff on set.
Yeah, and also it's things which can also be applied at home for other people and things like that, because it's all very similar principles.
Yeah.
We use the same principles that the cosplayers at home and all the hobbyists use. We just have a big workshop and get paid for it.
Well, the thing that I love is that urethane, even though it's a thermoset chemical reaction, it still responds quite well to heat. It still is very bendable when you warm it up.
It's not as bendable as, say, like an ABS or a thermoplastic can be. It does have quite a strong memory for what we would say the position it cooled in, which is the cure temperature. But you can manipulate it around, and particularly when it's thinner, you can sort of bully it into shapes that you need to.
Amazing.
Which we find that works quite well. One of the things that I would say with anything that you're doing for this, so if you're doing this as a hobby or anything like that at home, reference is really key.
Yeah.
Obviously, when we did the battle damage on the breastplate with the cannon shot, that is, you can Google that and you can get
you have all the reference you want.
All the reference you want. And we were trying to go for as close as we could with those sort of things. But it's a good idea to look up things that look like what you're aiming for.
I really love you saying this, because I think a lot of people at home will think, well, professionals, you just get used to knowing how it looks. And the answer is, sure, we kind of do, but we also know that we're not as smart as nature for the reference that it can give us of a natural circumstance.
Like, obviously, there's going to be certain elements. So one of the demos that I'll show you here today is how to do sort of lasers/plasma damage.
Right.
Which you're not really going to be able to Google that, because that doesn't exist in the real world. You'll be able to maybe find some, images where people have done their own versions of it.
Yeah.
But looking at, say, like a rough welded edge or something like that will give you the idea of those sort of things. Obviously, with another demo that we're showing, also a similar thing that we did with the cannonball breastplate, when you have ablative damage, there's loads of images of that all over the internet. Particularly with like the tanks that have been hit, how metal moves, how things twists and look. And then, as we were saying on the last video, where sometimes it's also something looking correct also comes in.
Right, you're answering what the audience wants to see.
Yes.
Right.
Because obviously people have, even the laymen have an idea of what they think a large shell going into something would look like.
Yeah.
Whereas that might not be the actuality. So sometimes you use your own biases to make something look how you think it should, even though that may not actually be physically or actually correct.
Otherwise, your brain is doing too much processing, wondering why it doesn't look like you think it looks.
Yes.
Right.
Also, sometimes you can get a little bit caught up on doing too much research on things.
Which among us can throw stones?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so where are we starting here?
So we're going to start off with the ablative damage. So I've got here like a few of our little panels. These are just sort of some generic panels that we have.
All right, and these are still the same process?
So it's still the same process. So this is what we call our hard material. It's basically kind of an ABS analog.
Right.
It's fairly similar. It's got a nice amount of flex to it, but it does have hard edges and things like that.
And you guys can, if you need to, adjust some of the flex properties of this in the mix.
So a lot of it is down to the thickness that the material gets sprayed out to.
Right.
So obviously, the thicker something is, the harder it's going to be.
And that's all in the operator.
It's all in the operator, as you did when you did your testers. There's also an element of we can sort of change the materials slightly, but sometimes it's better to use something that you know how it's going to operate and then modify from there, rather than try and use something which may or may not give you the qualities you want. Quite often with most materials, as with most plastics, the harder they are, the more brittle they are. So particularly when we're making costumes that may or may not go through fight scenes, battle scenes, things like that, you kind of want things to be as durable as you possibly can,
right? Because
rather
actors
than making them really, really hard.
I'm sure you're regularly impressed with how much abuse actors can dish out to your costumes.
This material is theoretically bomb-proof, and we have yet to make it stunt person-proof.
That's great.
It's amazing the things that they can manage to do with it. So
that's our canvas.
This is our canvas at the moment. To start off with these ones, one of the things that I've learned from doing this is, number one, when you're doing battle damage, actually working fast helps, because if you spend too much time being very, very deliberate with every single placement of every single line, you kind of make everything look too fake, because it's too deliberate.
So you're letting your speed create some of the randomness.
You kind of let some of the, let the randomness happen. Because, when something gets hit by, like, say, a big, massive shell or something like that, it's not going to be a perfectly controlled, perfect starburst type shot.
Right.
It's going to be asymmetrical. It's going to be a bit. So what I tend to do is you choose where you may or may not have the best. Sometimes that will actually be a script detail. So they get shot in the chest, they get shot in the lower abdomen, something like that. So you're obviously going to have to work to that. But generally what I tend to do is just get a shot, a good old friend, the Sharpie, and just immediately start just working out where you kind of want it located. So you might put a cross as the central line.
Right.
And then you're just going to do some random, sorry, I'm going to have to turn the camera in.
Yeah, of course.
And you're just going to do, I almost deliberately do shaky hand on it as well. Like you don't want to be doing, no rulers need to be involved. And you're kind of just going to be doing some sort of random shapes, which may or may not be the actual shape that you do. It's more about just getting your eye so that you go, right, that's this.
And then you have some bearings.
You have something to bear.
Right. Amazing.
And then on next phase, I tend to do our good old friends.
One of my favorite tools.
Yes.
Oh my God, you've got the little Makitas. I use these guys. These are my favorites.
My favorite tools.
They're so gentle.
The nicest things. Get the drill kit out. Obviously, one missing drill kit bit.
There's always one.
Always one. And I tend to just find something that's close to the holes that you want to. But less is more with this, especially when you're doing the ablative damage. Because the way that shells go into it, they peel it in. So the more that you take away, the less of the sort of fingering that you're going to have.
So you're doing less removal and more bending.
It's always a better idea to give yourself more to take away, because it's always easier to take away than it is to add to.
Indeed.
Always.
Always.
And if you could pass me the bit of wood over there, please, sir.
Yeah, there you go. There's
so that I don't drill into the cutting mat, as we've all done multiple times.
That's what they're for.
So all I tend to do is I just start getting a few random holes in the shape, just to sort of cut out some volume from it. So you get you can build this up as much or as little as you can, which I'm just going to sweep up my space. Always keep your space clean.
Look, you've got a dustpan and everything.
I've got a dustpan and brush and everything. And after you've done that, what you'll end up with is
look, we're doing a cooking show. I love it. Sorry, I just really appreciate your preparation.
For those of you in England, this is a Blue Peter moment. So here's one I made earlier.
Gotcha.
So you generally just end up with a rough shape. What we also sometimes might find is, rather than just purely using the drill, what you might use is our good old friend, the Dremel.
Yep.
And then if you can get either, you can get deburring bits or any of those sort of elements.
You like these double helix?
Yeah, the double helix,
ones.
the pineapples, anything that you can get on that. You can get them from quite a lot of places now as well. And you just sort of grind out the shape. You can kind of detail in the shape a little bit.
Oh, I see. So you've actually done some chamfering here on the edges and given it some real detail.
Yeah. So you just, again, I think that the looser you can be about this, the better, because you can always go in and add detail once you've done the stretch.
So when you're in the Dremel phase, it's not like, it's more like kind of maybe even grabbing the Dremel a little bit farther down and letting it get away from you.
Let it, you're more, when you're doing this sort of ablative damage, it's less of a problem about straight edges, because obviously metal gets ripped and torn and moved around.
Right.
But you kind of want to make things look less deliberate. So avoiding things like perfect circles, things like that. So you're sort of just roughing out edges and whatnot. Now, when we come to this area, we need to now curve this in.
Right.
This is where
the heat
guns come in. So urethane does, as you said, it's vaguely a thermosetting plastic. So if you heat it up, it will start being able to move around. If you were, say, a hobbyist and you had vac formed, or just this was a plate of ABS or something like that, or styrene even, you would be able to do this very, very easily.
Even with a house blow dryer.
Even with a house. The one thing I would obviously recommend, because this is a lesson that I constantly have to teach myself.
Wearing gloves.
Which is hot things are hot.
I never put gloves on.
Hot things are very hot because
I carry things like this, right?
Yes. You always just go, well, if I blow on my fingers first, it'll be better.
Wear your gloves.
So I always wear my gloves on this one.
Yep.
Partly because hot things are hot. But I just heat it up. So all I'm doing is like heating in the general area. You'll also notice that because I'm heating one side of it, it's going to peel away.
It's going to curl.
Anyway, you do want to heat the other side as well. And also, as with plastic, depending on the thickness will also have an effect.
Sure.
This. So you will be moving around. So you're just applying a bit of heat. And then if you could grab that anvil there for me, please. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the nose of the anvil. Because it's relatively bullet shaped.
Sure.
We are just going to...
Oh, that's where the shell goes through.
So we're just going to push that in and then continue to heat it up.
Oh, okay.
Now, because we've forced something into this, we have obviously warped the piece.
Right.
Because you've moved a lot of material out of the way. Now, this may or may not lean into what you want to do.
Gotcha.
Because this is what would actually happen to a plate if it was hit. It does move. Steel and metal do move around in very similar ways that plastic do when they're very hot and moved around. Hence the word plastic in a material sense rather than in a like actual sense. So you could sort of rebend this back in and try and catch it back up, or you might like this as it's going. But you can sort of do it. So I tend to just sort of keep adding a little bit of heat, because what you tend to find, this is where the mic comes in useful, what you will tend to find is the material as it cools will then set into that position.
Right, because if you didn't do this heat, after you did this, it might have a memory and go back.
And then want to come back. Also, you do tend to find, again, with the thermosetting plastics, it's a little bit less so, but the memory of this will, as you say, spring it back into its shape. So you kind of want to bend it the same way as if you were cold bending metal.
Gotcha.
You kind of want to bend it a little bit more
and then let it
that you want, and then it will relax back into the shape. So you'll do something like this, which is quite grandiose and over the top, but it will sort of shrink and come in a little bit less. Also, as you can see, because the hole on this was relatively big, I could put something this large through it. So if you were doing something smaller, you kind of almost want to do, you could possibly use an angle grinder or a cutting disc and just cut. So you're not actually removing any volume. You were just
you're just creating like a star pattern
that you can go through. So you can move it through like that. And then this little bit, I would have left it a little bit longer, and then you end up with...
That looks like a shell went right through there.
So you would end up with something like this. Now, obviously, one of the problems that we would have if we were doing this as a costume is we have created a large volume at the back.
That has to be dealt with.
So then if that was sort of, if we had a super suit or something where these armor plates were like on the body, like say something we did for Aquaman or something like that, we would maybe have to then cheat this. So
create a fake volume.
And also sometimes with these sort of things, we're working in collaboration with prosthetics because they've also got a wound or something like that underneath. So maybe you would have to zero that in on where an actual wound was, because say on Halo, we've done things where the character Riz had been shot. We had a very large prosthetic because they were actually going to be taking the material off of her. So we had to make sure that the wound was in place for where they needed to have the prosthetic placed, and it sort of, the story of that wound was told through the damage.
Amazing. So I'm curious about the technology in both makeup and your guys' business, because is it the case where modern prosthetics utilize digital techniques enough to allow you guys to like look at the makeup plan on a digital model and then plan for that in your costume model?
So it can be an either or situation.
Okay.
So with the Halo one, they sent us one of their early castings.
Okay.
And we're working off of the same body because we have the scans here, and also we have access to the actors depending on where they're filming and things like that. If we were doing something for a production that was further afield, then yes, they might send us a scan, just purely because sending stuff across the internet is always going to be quicker than post.
Fair.
And we can then zero in on it and stuff. Like, depending on how important that wound is to the story, is generally going to be
how much
time and stuff that you would dedicate to it. If this was something that you just needed a few background extras that have had bullet wounds and things like that, or you wanted a suit of armor that looked like it had gone through a battle, you can kind of be a little bit softer with things. Generally, the larger the wound, the more prep is going to go into it, because the more noticeable it is.
That's super cool.
But yeah, so it's that's one way of doing an ablative damage. As I said, you can definitely do that quite easily. You could also, if you wanted to, then heat separate areas and then bend them by hand if you wanted to get like a curl in.
Well, and this technique would work with Warbler or EVA foam.
Anything that's thermosetting. Yeah. So obviously the foamier of the foams, I would avoid it, because you generally, with any heat level, you're going to be melting things. But also, sometimes that can be a cool effect, as long as you're wearing a mask when you're doing it. So you can do a lot of different techniques and things. The next technique that we're going to show you...
Here, let's put this one over here.
Yes, if we put this one over here for you. Great. There's also like another Blue Peter here, the one I made earlier for you.
Excellent.
We are going to be working on making some sort of plasma damage with these.
Okay.
Now, I think with something like this, you can be quite a lot more regular, as I said, with the damage going in, because a plasma blast is going to sort of punch a big hole in something. It's going to melt material rather than it's going to be like pushing material in.
We might not even have this weapon, but we know what it can do.
We've watched Star Wars when they hit something. So we sort of have an idea. It's also a case of, you don't necessarily want to be repeating it. You want to give something a bit of a different look to it.
Of course.
Also, that gives us opportunities to do some interesting stuff with regards to finishing and things like that, because you can do loads of different sort of techniques of burns and whatnot.
Okay.
So to start off with this, we are going to go a little bit more ham. So again, we will start off by working out where we want.
Just giving yourself a reference.
The pen can always be removed. So this time round, I think we'll probably do something fairly big around here, and then maybe some little sort of dings or scrapes or something like that off to the side. I always think, unless you want it to look very sniper shot-y, things always look, for those of us that have been unfortunate enough to see like bullet damage and things like that on you very rarely have one single wound. You tend to have, or damage, you tend to have little splinters and things like that.
That's
and again, how much of that is true and how much of that is it just looking correct?
But
I always think it
meeting your expectations.
Yeah, meeting expectations. So for this one, we can be a little bit more over the top, and we are going to go for the big boy hole cutters, which are always the fun tools.
I never get into trouble with these.
Oh, no. The amount of DIY that's been involved with various hole cutters. So I'm just going to go ham on this one. Had to be, of course, while I was filming. We're just going to go ham, and we're going to cut a very large hole there. And then for the smaller holes, I'll go for, again, following the same principle as we said before, where it's easier to take away.
Oh, right.
We will go for a slightly smaller drill bit than we want the hole to be. The same with the hole cut, because you do want, although it is quite nice having a circular hole, you do want to mess the edge up so it doesn't look like somebody cut it with a hole saw.
If it's too regular, again, your eye gets drawn to it, right?
So you want to sort of break up and it's also breaking up silhouettes and lines and whatnot.
I'm still going around the world these days taking pictures of like great looking rusty pipes or torn pieces of metal and putting them in my library.
Yeah, you sort of have a habit of coming across something. I sometimes do it with colorways. So if you see a really, really nice combination of colors on something and you're like, oh, that's really good for the maker in you never really fully shuts down.
Yeah, no.
I always think.
There's a ute that parks on my street that is a kind of a forest green, but I think it's Subaru. They added these gold accents, which is very strange on a consumer car.
Yeah.
But it looks like one of your guys' pieces of armor. It's really nice.
Well, Anadora, who's our head painter, she's incredibly good at just finding those little, because sometimes it's not necessarily about the main color, it's about the accent color and the depth of the colors. It's not just about spraying something one single color.
I get to meet Anadora on this trip. It's been twice that I've been here. She has not been here. I'm so excited.
Yes, finally.
Okay, so you've got your big
So we
hole
have
and your
our
small
rough painting
holes.
here, and with this one, we are going to rough the edges up on this. So goggles time on this one. And all I'm going to be doing with this, I'm not necessarily going to be sculpting, although you are sculpting with a Dremel.
Right.
It's more about just removing this regularity a little bit and breaking the lines up as you go. So all I'm going to be doing is just carving into this.
Oh, so you're just breaking the line a tiny bit.
Yeah, just really just giving it, like you can kind of go in and you can drag things out a little bit. And I'm not really worrying too much about, I'm not really worrying over much about making it perfectly, putting little dings and putting perfect scrapes in and things like that. If you had time and effort, you could make it absolutely perfect if you wanted to. But part of this is about keeping it rolling, keeping the movement, and creating those little happy accidents.
You want the speed to be part of the aesthetic process.
Obviously, like with the die grinders, you can get a lot of different shapes and things. And also in the same way that any of the sculptors that you've talked to, they'll have their favorite sculpting tool that they use about 90% of the time. It's the same sort of principle with that. Like I prefer those little curved ones. Some people prefer the drums. But you can get, it's all about just creating those little sort of mixes. And then once we've done that to the whole thing...
Oh, here's one we made earlier.
Okay. So all we've done here is we've just sort of broken the edges up a little bit, just giving it that little bit of curve in and just making it so it still has that nice regular circle, but it's not, it doesn't look like it's been made in a deliberate fashion. It's just an automatic hit. And
your eye looks at it and says, something shot this rather than something drilled this.
Yes, exactly. It needs to look like something rough's happened to it. That we can. Now, the next phase with this is because it's been hit by like a thermo weapon of some description, we want to make it look melty, like it's been melted and it's sort of, like the material which has been removed here is gone somewhere else.
Right, and when I use my oxyacetylene torch, the edge of the steel can be a spectacular looking bit of
and
melt.
those are also for things like this, getting back to the reference I did, those are the sort of reference ideas, because if you can't find an actual image of the reference, it's always worthwhile looking for something which is kind of like that.
Yeah, an analog.
If you can't. So what we're going to use on here for the speed is we will use our good old friend Superglue.
Oh, yay!
The chaotic good,
chaotic good, yes.
of the modeling world. So with this one, we use a material called Activator, which you can do, which basically allows the superglue to go off very, very quick. There's different speeds of superglue, but it is quite deadly stuff to use because you can glue yourself to it and things like that. So we always wear gloves.
And it can also, I tend to find sometimes the rapid accelerator can make the superglue bubble up a little bit if you're going on too much of it too much.
Well, actually, we will use that as a technique in this because you will get those little pinholes and those bubbles and things like that. And it will just...
Nice, happy accents.
Yeah. Because then you get... If you're applying it on really, really thick, then you will also get elements of that happening and little bubbles, because you will get that. If you melt steel, you get those little bubbles and levels and all this other stuff. And also what we'll be doing is trying to create a little bit of that pinhole damage that you get where you have sort of a bit of a starburst coming out of it. The one thing that we will have to do for this is because Superglue Activator is super, super health and safety deadly. So we'll definitely have to be wearing masks.
Okay, copy that.
So with these ones, what I'm going to be doing, we have a few different densities or viscosities of superglue that we use here.
I tend to find using the thicker ones for this because we're trying to build body up.
Right.
If you use the really, really thin ones, you're going to find that it drips off and it goes all over the place.
It's a lot of extra work.
And what we're going to be doing, again, not in a deliberate fashion. We want to be doing this in a very, very haphazard fashion. So all I'm going to do is start just putting the super glue all along the edges and building up.
Oh, look at how sloppy. I love it.
It's just we're doing this as quickly as we can because we're just trying to build up a bit of volume.
Right.
It's worthwhile trying to keep it in a flat because if you angle it like this, it's going to drip. Then what we're going to do is you can use anything that's got a nice edge to it. And then we're just going to start...
Oh, that's great!
We're just going to start moving the super glue so we get these little lines and pinholes and things like that.
Right.
Then once we do, we get the activator. We're going to activate it, and it will crust up because of the super glue activating.
Oh, look at how much
And you're
work
going to
that
be getting the
Oh,
bubbles.
that's great.
And then we're going to be going along, and it's just about layers.
Yep.
One of the things that I've always found with regards to antiquing, battle damage, anything like that, and it does come down to a time element, is the more you can do, the better. So the more layering, just keep on adding layers and layers and layers. There's always a point where you need to stop. But the more you can do, the more techniques, the more layers, the more bubbling. You could then maybe do this, go into it with the Dremel and re-sculpt it in if you wanted to.
Right.
So you sort of build it up and build it up and build it up. One of the other elements with this, we can take the masks off now because it's clear, is adding a little bit of additional material to the underside. Because with this, it's sometimes nice to just have a bit, with, say, these ablative ones, it has a nice three-dimensional element because you've got some of the inwards.
Ah, right. So if you want this edge to be a little more like it's been melted, you give it
and
body
also
on the
you
back.
want to maybe put a little bit in. So what we sometimes find is if you grab another material, so you can get that like sci-fi laminated element to these.
This is like crocheting plastic, right?
Yeah. So this is actually like a thermoplastic that we use.
Yeah.
But all we're going to do is just cut up some random bits of this and get some, again, deliberately making it as odd as you possibly can. You don't want to be doing regular shapes if you can help it. And again, this is one of those situations where I need to get my gloves because hot material's hot. I will eventually learn that lesson. The amount of glue guns are the worst ones for me.
It's from my kids still hand me like a hot cup of coffee to see if I can hold it because I have welding. I still have welding calluses.
Those sort of things. So for moving these around, because this is a thermoplastic, you can be quite extreme with it because it's a vac formable and everything like that. Plastic if you use it. I will use the anvil here. What I tend to find is if you hold it on an edge like this and heat it, what you want is you just want to break up this surface, the general feel of it. Also, you're melting it as well.
Oh, look at that. Right, it is getting a little melty.
And then you can, if you grab something like this, you can then manipulate it.
Oh, wow. Okay,
into positions and curve it round. We still want to have a little bit of something that's punched through, so you want bits which are moving inwards. And then you can wait for those sort of spaces to cool. And then we would take something like that. And I think part of the free form nature of this is it's nice to make up a load of different ones of these. And then you just start looking at where it would
might reveal internal structure,
or where it would look good. Like it could be behind a space here.
Right. Oh.
Or it could be like that, and you're just sort of giving yourself a little bit of a feel of some free dimension, and then you can glue those in. And then as you go, you can then add another layer of glue and melt and everything like that to those. And here's one I made earlier, so you can see what I've done is I've melted these in and I've just gone round it and round it. I probably went a little bit too over the top on this area here, as we always do.
Yeah.
But with adding those layers, activating it, doing more, and you can get that bubbling up feel where it's like actually And because it's the super glue, it'll generally flex with the surface.
Right, you don't lose too much of the flexibility of it.
And also, super glue works really, really well with urethane. It bonds urethane together incredibly well. It almost welding it together, like if you get 2 bits of urethane and you just glue them together. So it'll bond quite well onto that. And then also the super glue is, as you will find out shortly, is also plateable.
Yeah.
So we can then apply a metallized finish to the super glue and then add all those different paint effects and everything like that.
So I love that you're mentioning that, because I saw before we filmed a bit of a primered piece of this, and I was thinking about how you did the detail, and I was thinking, well, you know, one way is you could get a sculptor to come in here and do this, but then you're talking about making a mold, casting it in. This is ridiculous. You're getting all that same amount of work done in a 10th or a 20th of the time, and utilizing your speed to get these happy accidents. I love that.
It's also an element of, I'm sure, with yourself and also some of the people that you've worked with over the years, to be able to sculpt something that looks random.
It's really hard.
Really, really, really hard. Whereas if you are just applying super glue to things, or like if you would have longer or anything like that, maybe you use some resins, or the other thing, you could, if you want to have a bit of texture in there, you could literally throw sand at it. You could use PVA maybe to do those sort of things. The reason why we use the super glue is the combination of the super glue and the primer, it just goes off immediately really, really fast. So you get that speed up and those happy accidents. The randomness is literally in it because you are being random with it. So it gets that little bubble up.
Joe, I really appreciate you wheeling me into your guys' process. For me, my takeaway always is how much work each technician is doing while thinking about the narrative. Even the narrative of what your eye tells you as you look quickly at a thing and glean the information you need from it. It's battle damage, it's welding damage, etc. I love these random techniques.
Yes. Dude. It's also, I think, as all makers, you look at problems and you go, how can I do this as quickly as possible?
Well, and you've got a shop full of people that you have to delegate to. I'm sure they also all have different proclivities when they do damage. And it's not like one is better than the other. They're just all different. So sometimes maybe you take one from someone and give it to someone else to get a little variance.
Yeah, you can move things around. Like everybody has sort of their own like backgrounds and techniques and things like that. That they will, like our molders would probably use a lot more of our casting materials and things like that for this. Whereas our sculptors might be sculpting in a Sculpey or epoxy resin into it to get the same effect. And it's ultimately, I never have a problem with how the crew get from A to B. As long as B's what you want. There's multiple different ways of doing that.
If someone is executing something really novel and interesting, do people in the shop tend to file past their workstation to see what they're doing?
Yeah, they will. Quite often with our workshop, we pride ourselves on being quite a teaching-based workshop anyway, but you will quite often get to the point where if something which works really well will then sort of become a workshop thing in a way.
That must be really fun.
Yeah, because you have people who come up with a cool way of achieving something and then suddenly that becomes the standard.
Every time I'm here, Joe, all I want to do is come and work with you guys. Thank you so much, dude. This is really fun.
Thank you very much, mate.
Before we cut this video entirely, I wanted you to see what this kind of technique looks like when you prime it, because that's the only time you know whether what you did actually works. And Joe let me go over to the spray booth and add a coat of primer to this, and now you can see how beautiful it is. We have another video coming where we actually paint this with Anadora, link in the description.